And there's loads more, as I could talk about, whether financial provision for into and old age is a matter for the state, for employers, or for us as individuals, about the role of the market in healthcare, in HE, in social care. All of that will continue to intensify, and it's already clear that that's going to happen in this Parliament. Now, across those struggles, we can see a lot of confusion in the definitions used. Whether privacy is a negative freedom from the incursions of the state, whether it denotes a private domain of domestic and personal life, or whether it describes individual choices in the marketplace and the freedom to exploit common resources for private pleasure or profit. But the shifting boundary between public, private and personal is not just a matter of definitional niceties, it's the focus of new governmental practice through which the boundaries are being reordered and of active contestation, border skirmishes and infringements. And I want to offer 4 quick examples of these skirmishes and the slippages between political, economic and moral that are underpinning them. The first one. Now, this warning against feminist ideas about gender equality was given in 2004 by Pope John Paul II, but its architect, as the report makes clear, is one Cardinal Ratzinger, who is now, of course, Pope Benedict. I've included it because domestic violence, abortion and reproduction are issues that women have long struggled to get on the public agenda, and having succeeded, they're now the focus of efforts by the moral right in the new politics of the personal that seeks to reassert patriarchal authority and a conservative moral agenda. This is the next one. This example depicts what happened when Birmingham Repertory Theatre launched a play excuse me, that depicted male violence against a Sikh woman in a holy Sikh place. I put this up for several reasons. It raises the question of whether religious belief is a personal or political matter, an issue that's moving to centre stage in the context of contemporary global struggles. But it also raises issues about who can speak for and about particular publics, who has a public voice, and whose voices are silenced. The media depiction of this event was of an integrated, univocal Sikh community protesting at the play. And outside the theatre, there were loads of actual protests going on. But as today's Guardian, what a gift, reported, this was one of a whole series of plays by and about black and ethnic minorities that are being put on by the Birmingham Rep that are really highly attended by young black and Asian women. And there's something there about which voices are heard in the protest and which voices are responded to. And it also opens up about questions about how public space, both inside and outside the theatre where the protest took place, is differentially experienced and inhabited. My third example is very quick, but just to delineate the territory. In 2005, on International Women's Day, the Labour government announced that all pregnant women were to be asked by their doctors and midwives if they were being abused by their partner, following research showing that women are more likely to be subjected to domestic violence when pregnant. Research into policy, first example. This is a typical New Labour articulation between older forms of politics, in this case feminist, and new strategies of social governance that disrupt the privacy of personal lives, and as such was the focus of considerable ideological contestation. The minister, Melanie Johnson, said, and I quote, "Domestic violence is a taboo subject that is often shrouded in secrecy. This only serves to help the perpetrator. We want to bring it out into the open." Secrecy, openness was one of the things going on in public and private. Critics, including one Anne Widdecombe, condemned the plans as intrusive and bureaucratic and said that doctors and midwives should not be forced to ask such personal questions. So that's just to warm you up, really. The dominant strategy is one of marketisation. The dominant strategy for going public is about the marketisation, privatisation of public goods into the private sector. But it's a process that is not just unilinear and is contested. Things like the reopening of the bridge from the Scottish mainland to the island of Skye, for instance. The unsuccessful but nevertheless very vocal attempt to renationalise British Rail, the railways, not British Rail. The example I've chosen about contesting it is this one. You all know Jamie Oliver and his campaign about school meals. Now, he condenses both the impact of heroic images from the world of commerce and celebrity and onto public policy, and the importance of the media in shaping and reshaping ideas of what is and what is not a public matter. But it's mainly, I think, an example of the residualisation of the public across a whole field of services and functions, from public transport to the provision of public services such as schools and hospitals. Now, despite the offer by government for more funds to improve the nutrition of children at school, it emerged that new schools built under private finance initiatives found that they could do nothing because they were locked into 25-year contracts, while other schools would have to pay significant financial penalties to opt out of long-running contracts with private catering companies. The turkey twizzler lives on. This example also reminds us that the dynamics of remaking the public takes place across a field of structured inequalities. I picked dinner ladies as an example of the kinds of worker that moved from public to private sector in the marketising reforms of the 80s and 90s, and whose wages, conditions and quality of work suffered. Alongside their capacity to deliver public value. Now, this idea of public value is an important concept, I think, because it's something different from what public services actually do. It's what's delivered, and it's something more than just the institutions that deliver it. And we can see the processes of privatisation squeezing the capacity of those who are dedicated to delivering good services from delivering that public value. And there's a little bit of research which I haven't included, which is about how cleaners in hospitals, in residential care homes, and indeed dinner ladies used to do all sorts of informal bits of work when they were directly employed by those institutions, you know, talking to somebody who needed to be talked to, getting drinks of water, taking old people to the toilet, even in residential care homes. And that capacity to do that got very significantly squeezed when they were contracted out. And that matters, I think. And it opens out to different kinds of politics of the public, both in terms of who is employed in what conditions and what kinds of work are deemed to be a public or collective responsibility. And this is a very gendered politics. The modernisation of the welfare state involves a number of different gender dynamics, shifting responsibilities from state to domestic or the personal spheres, where women tend to be those who pick up that responsibility. At the same time as encouraging women to be full worker citizens through welfare to work schemes, at the same time as wanting people in communities, often women, to take more responsibility for health and community safety. And those gaps are filled either by the further stretching of the elasticity, already elastic, qualities of women's labour, and by the marketisation of domestic and personal services, a market met in part through inward migration. So it's not only a gendered process, it's a deeply racialised process. And even Tony Blair knows that the NHS would collapse without the contribution of migrant workers. So, in my 4 examples, the Sikh protest, the Pope, midwives and dinner ladies, I sketched a number of different dynamics involved in remaking the public. Going to market, the increasing turn to the market for the provision of public goods. Obscuring the public, public-private partnerships, contracting and network forms of coordination that obscure the boundaries between state, market and civil society. Publicising the personal, opening up the personal to new kinds of governance strategies. And I could have talked of lots more here about how we're being made responsible, strategies of responsibilisation. And finally, remaking publics, which is a process that involves reshaping social and political imaginaries of what is possible and how agency can be exercised. And this last is associated with a strategy that I haven't talked about, one in which the public is collapsed into populist images of the people. And it's not only Michael Howard who does that.